Da 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 da. What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. This is the first day of the week in the job that puts the roof over my head. I'm going to work with a cold, so I'll be wearing a face mask for the first time in a couple of months. Periodically when people are at work and they're sick, or I notice that one of the regulars is wandering around the store and they're obviously sick. Because of that hairy, scary, that calmness that comes up after a storm, that people, right, just are not taking the care that they used to when it comes to that contact with others. So today I'm going to just spend a little time, right, taking care of myself, but at the same time conscious that, I do serve a lot of honorable, this past weekend and going into this conversation of influence, I'll have to say, right? So you can understand a little bit of where I'm coming from and where I'm going into in this job that puts the roof over my head this week. I had two altercations on the very same day, altercations at work that could have transpired into something physical. It had the potential in the two interactions that I did have, and it did cause me a sense of concern because in the moment I handled it, it was good, but there were seconds, without making that eye contact. There could have been a swing taken that could have made contact. There could have been maybe an altercation that might have been redirected at somebody else, seeing that they weren't making the imprint that they were kind of needing to express out of their system in the moment. In any case, two altercations that were fine, right? Fine coming out of it. But we live in this world now that these have become the norm, right? We kind of expect it, don't we? It's unfortunate. But these are the movements that this world is making in each one of our cities, countries, right? Community, neighborhood, right? In our own churches, in our schools, in our own households. These volatile moments of expression are happening, and it is in our actions, right? That is going to offer up an opportunity to dissolve something into nothingness, or to feed that and turn something that might have been a nothing into something bigger, to each one of our choices and to each one of us, right? In those lessons that we pick up and in those experiences that we pick up along the way, that possibly we can make some good decisions for ourselves, right? Coming here and sharing, right? That little bit of experience, that little bit adventure, that little bit of movement that I'm making for myself. Talking yesterday about being that example. What kind of example am I to myself when, I pull myself out of those difficult situations and those difficult relationships that are impacting me negatively within my own tight community, and I'm not willing to make that same kind of movement because of a concern or worry, right? And worry, right? In a lesson I took yesterday, come to understand worry is not an emotion. Worry is not an emotion. Worry is something that we're doing for ourselves in the care of ourselves. And I worry for myself, right? I should worry for myself. In those lessons, that being the example for my very self, that I have to use those tools. How am I the example for anybody else if I can't be that example for myself? To trust in the tools, trust in those lessons, trust in those relationships, trust that I can stand on my 2 feet, and trust that I can get myself out of a difficult situation without worrying about tumbling in down somebody else's house. Right? I am not the savior for everybody else's problems in a moment when I am trying to be the savior of my own problems. And that's the truth. We can't take care of anybody else, right? Without taking care of ourselves. And that's the influence, that's the magnificence of the beauty of the lessons, right? And that's what I have to be the example of, right? We expect the wrenches to be thrown into the engines as we make that movement, but we're never in that moment ready for it to happen in that moment. It's always somewheres down the road, right? It's something to worry about another day. But opportunities come across our paths just as much as those wrenches and difficulties and failures and all of that comes across our paths. And it's in our choices that is going to initiate any kind of great movement or great example or right, great opportunity to make a little bit of movement for ourselves, in that very least, to prove to ourselves that we are taking in the right lessons, that we're not just taking in information, that we're playing with that information, we're testing that information, we're facing that information head on, and really making sure that it's something we want to move forward with, that it's something that works, that is the evidence. That's the influence. That's the influence that I decide to take for myself as a truth, because I've seen the evidence work. I've seen the miracle of it. I've seen the dazzle and an amaze. I see how it impacts me. I see how it impacts my life. And I see in that impactfulness how it impacts others, right? Those lessons come across our paths. We don't get to always pick when those moments happen. But if we're paying attention, we can see the perfect opportunity to make a little bit of headway, right? To initiate change, or knowing that that change is coming, buffer up, right? Get on those safety vests, put on that tool belt to pay attention, right? To pay attention. That's taking care of ourselves. That's the influence that I'm looking for, right? In the creation of the best human being I possibly can, in that partnership for myself, that I'm able to pick up the slack and make those difficult decisions, trusting that everything will be okay, right? Trusting that everything will be okay, that in this moment, everything is okay. And if I should make a difficult decision, or if I should fall flat on my face, I'll just get back up and just keep going, because I understand that nothing gets better without that movement, right? And that movement comes from those decisions that we make along the way. And that's the truth. And we all get to make those decisions for ourselves. And that's a truth too, right? So those stumbles, those failures, those wake up calls, those opportunities, right? When they come across our paths in that moment, that's when we can make a decision, right? That's where we can make the best impact for ourselves, positively, negatively, or if you have the right lessons, just understanding that, right? It's just change. It's just change. It's just the opportunity to have a different experience. And a different experience is better than experience that you've been doing over and over and over again. And you've got that down pat. So you think, well, let's use some of those tools that you've picked up along the way and let's just dive into it. Let's just stir that pot. Let's just make some change when that opportunity comes across our paths, right? And trust that even if it's not a good decision, right? And we go, oops, now we're flying by our pants, right? You got the tools. I've got the tools. Do you sink? Do you swim? Right? Well, if you're hanging out with me, you obviously swim. It's time for some change. It's time for some change. I've felt it for so long, but in my own procrastination and in my own worries, worries, right? That I could be stalling my own self out. And that quite possibly could be the case. But how am I to know unless I play into that hand, play into that hand, knowing that it's my hand and not somebody else's set of cards, right? Okay, you guys, I've got to run off. I'm starting the work week in the job that puts the roof over my head. Grateful for that job. I give everything to that job. Last week was the hardest day of the year. It's over, it's done with. They're starting fresh, starting anew. Let's see how the new week, right, starts off. And it will be up to me in that movement, right? In that contribution to myself and right to see if I can make it a little bit better. Okay, you guys, that's my good cheer. I will see you tomorrow. Bye. Hello, Andrew. Hello.